After several years, Chainsaw Man has finally released its first episode, and I don't even want to talk about the episode. I don't even want to talk about the episode. I just want to talk about the OP. The OP is absolutely fantastic. Music, animation, visuals all around are just top notch. And not only that, but the entire time I'm watching, I'm going, man, everything here looks oddly familiar, and very, very random. There is a lot of references in the OP, and it's not even funny. I am still finding people going, oh, by the way, this is from this scene. Now, yes, some of them are kind of a stretch. I usually get that whenever there's references in stuff. It's always that's that movie and a million other movies have had a scene where somebody is sitting in a movie theater. But no, we're talking about some stuff that is obviously references, and just looking at all of them is this is so weird. Why this scene? Specifically the one that made me question immediately was why are some guys randomly getting on a table? And then somebody's like, oh, that's Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I'm like, oh, okay, that explains why it's so oddly random and very familiar. But no, Pulp Fiction reference, No Country for Old Men, and of course, because it's Chainsaw Man, Chainsaw Massacre, there's, it just picking apart the OP itself is enough to warrant watching this episode. Now, I will be perfectly honest, I wasn't too thrilled by the episode overall. It wasn't super hype levels for me, and I've been trying to keep my hype levels down for the series because I think a lot of the manga fans and everybody are really trying to hype this up, and Crunchyroll themselves are really trying to hype this up. So I've been trying to keep my expectations low. This is probably going to be another Jujutsu Kaisen where it's really amazing animation, MAPPA goes crazy, but it's not the substance is something crazy. I will admit, though, I feel for Denji. It's a really, really, really crappy, an origin story for a character. I mean, we're not talking about some grand thing here. This is some dude that got left a whole bunch of debt by his father and is literally just scrounging. He's talking about, giving up his kidneys and stuff, which I don't think I've seen in the manga. I flipped through the manga after watching the episode because one thing was a little confusing to me, and it kind of confirmed my thought process there. Is mainly why he asked for a hug at the end. It didn't make sense to me. Why is he asking for a hug randomly? Well, it's because the anime just pretty much pointed out that he wanted to get with a girl. He wanted to, go on dates and stuff. It wasn't really necessarily he wanted a hug. In the manga, it specifically says, I want a hug from a girl before I die. That's why he asked for a hug at the end. It didn't reference that in the anime, so it didn't make much sense that he's hug me. Did he know? I assumed it was because Pochita told him that in order to get rid of his powers, he has to be hugged, which is weird. It's a Ranma thing, but still. Yeah, that kind of confirmed that. So yes, that's why he asked for a hug at the end, is because he wanted to be hugged before he died. He felt he was dying, so there you go. But no, his story sucks. It's dude giving up his kidneys and all this other stuff just to survive, just to make his payments to this Yakuza. I also kind of felt like it didn't explain it very well, but essentially his father having this debt with the Yakuza, he's having to pay it off. And they were questioning why they're using Denji, this dumb boy with a devil dog thing. And it was because real devil hunters, official ones, would never sell carcasses to the Yakuza. So they're getting the carcasses from Denji. Whereas if they were to go to real devil hunters, they're not going to be selling them the carcasses. And so I would assume that being that he's now run into the public safety, that they probably are official devil hunters and they don't sell. Well, they probably still sell the Yakuza. We'll see. But no, it was really crappy. I don't really feel like they portrayed that connection to Pochita very well. And again, it's technically the same in the manga. It kind of had a little bit of a brief moment right when he realized that Pochita gave his life to him, that he felt a little upset in the idea. Mainly surrounding the idea that these guys want more. They're not done yet. Oh, I'm the same way. I couldn't get enough. I had Pochita. I was happy, and yet I still desired more things. So maybe that'll be a thing that'll go in later on. I really wasn't expecting myself to be as connected to Pochita as I ended up doing, because it really hits heavy on the idea that he had nothing, and then Pochita came along, and then he and Pochita were pretty much together from that point on. Man's best friend is a devil chainsaw puppy thing. A devil dog chainsaw thing. But no, it did solid to introduce the character. Really crappy situation, really to his corner. The synopsis made it out like he was being betrayed by his friends, but it was no, he was being killed by a devil. A devil grabbed the Yakuza guys, possessed them, and then they came to kill him because he's a devil hunter. So it wasn't necessarily that he was betrayed. Unless they weren't possessed until they brought him there, that would make sense. They had to bring him there in order for the devil to give them power. Makima seems interesting so far. I like the fact that the entire episode is really Denji with this pet, and he's feeding the pet. But it was very mutual between the two of them, whereas now at the very end, now that he has Pochita inside of him, he's going to become Makima's pet in a sense. If you work for me, you'll be my pet. I'll take care of you. So solid work in really establishing Denji as a character at the end of his wits, pretty much taken out the people that were really holding him down, and now he's kind of just stepped right back into somebody else's hold. He's going from basically being the dog of the Yakuza to being the dog of the public safety. So I don't necessarily think that his situation has gotten better, but at least it hopefully will be more interesting going forward than just killing and giving the Yakuzas. Now, the animation overall. Like, the episode's gorgeous. Like, the entire episode is absolutely gorgeous. The backdrops, the visuals, the perspective shots, everything looked absolutely amazing. They even had, like, the shadowing effect from the leaves as he's walking through the forest. It just downright looks gorgeous. I will admit, and I was expecting this coming into it, the later part with this big fight that he has with the zombie devil, yes, that's where we get into the I'm back and forth on, yes, this looks great, to, I don't know. Obviously, everything that shows Denji being this chainsaw man with the chainsaw coming out of his head and arms is going to be done in CGI. It doesn't seem as if they're really going to 2D animate any of that stuff, and I can understand why. 2D animating big, gigantic saw blades on your arms is very difficult, or at least chainsaw blades, or at least chainsaws. And I think whenever it's in crazy motion, like he's jumping through the air or diving down on something, it looks absolutely incredible. The shots of him just kind of just exploding on stuff looks really good, and you got this blood spatter effect going on. It was really just in like those moments where, and again, I don't think they weren't even in the manga. These brief moments they added in between these sections of attacks where he's just kind of standing there and he's slicing at random people. That's where it looks a little bit rough. Like when he's just kind of just standing there and he's just moving slightly, it looks, you can see it. Like that's the CGI where I'm just, I cringe a little bit. But again, whenever it's like him jumping at something, diving on something, and just quick splatters, it looks absolutely breathtaking. MAPPA is, I think for like character CGI animation, like the character themselves is CGI, I think MAPPA is pretty much the best of the best out there. I would say for like visual environments and stuff like that, I usually go for something like a Footable or something like that. They do some really crazy stuff with photo filters and stuff like that. Or whenever it's like an actual monster or an object, yeah, that's where Footable drops below MAPPA for me. Like the skeletons in Unlimited Blade Works, or the slime thing on the train in Mugen Train. That's where it's like, yeah, I think MAPPA kind of starts to edge them out, because they do a really good job of kind of trying to make that blend in with the environment itself. And I really do appreciate that in this first episode, despite the fact that they have all these zombies, and yes, a lot of the long away shots, you can see their CGI running towards him, but whenever he got pretty close to them, they decided to switch back to 2D. So when it's closer and you can obviously see that they're going to be CGI, they didn't opt to use CGI for those moments. And so it kind of helped it not stand out as much. I've always been a fan of the idea of using CGI only when things are far away and it's a massive amount of things. But when you get close, don't do that. Don't use that CGI, because then it becomes more obvious. But yeah, through and through, it's just a really great job of that stuff. They're doing a really good job. I wasn't too bothered by the CGI, and when it needed to get crazy and over the top, it pulled it off. And my gosh, some of the crazy action scenes in that OP. Going back talking about the OP. The OP was so phenomenal. Like the OP was so good. Even the playful points where they're just kind of dancing and stuff, but then it goes into the crazy action scene with him bursting out of stuff. It just is so good. It is so good. But yeah, my big hang up point right now is that I really want to know what kind of chemistry we have here. And I've sneak peeked a little bit into what will be the second episode. And it does like we're going to have a really interesting chemistry between the characters. And I think that's what's going to be a selling point for me going forward. Yes, animation's fantastic. Yes, environments, backdrops, all that stuff is visually great, but I need to have a solid, at least either chemistry or story to go here, and I'm hoping that that chemistry in the second episode will be what actually sells me on the show as a whole. Nothing against Jujutsu Kaisen, but I didn't feel like I had some really great story or chemistry to go with that show, and I hope that this one pulls that off. And the only reason I'm connecting those two together is that they're both MAPPA, and they're both visually stunning, and they're both technically sold by their action. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 1 of Chainsaw Man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode if you're going to be checking it out. As usual, if you've not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top lists. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I greatly appreciate if you consider supporting us on Patreon or tips link or super thanks button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody it does, and y'all take care.